Good morning to us all. Welcome to our first series of webinars on production orders. So production orders are an essential function of QAD. In 2016, the QAD group decided to take the functionality of work orders, advanced repetitive Kanban, all the other scheduling tools, and combine them into what is now known as production orders. One of the important messages of this series of webinars is that effective with QAD O3, production orders will be the way of manufacturing for QAD. We, 32Soft, Alex, Nancy, etc., estimate that about 60% of the users still use work order functionality, and all of these will eventually need to adapt to using production orders. In this three-part series on production orders, we'll cover some significant changes to planning, scheduling, and execution of these production orders. The first webinar today, we're going to cover some of the accoutramental issues with production orders. We'll talk about production lines, production calendars, production control, and the production order maintenance. Then next month, we'll get more into materials, locations, allocations, pick lists, and various transactions. And then in the last webinar in May, we'll talk about the MSW, PSW, the workbenches, production order receipts, the close process, accounting close, reporting, and variance analysis. So we get an idea of where we've been. Let's just take a quick look at the various versions of QAD over the years. In 1979, Pam and Carl founded QAD in Santa Barbara. Then in 2007, MFG Pro changed its name to QAD Enterprise Applications. 2015 saw the advent of the UX interface. Then in 2016, QAD came out with the Enterprise Platform, EE, along with a number of versions since then. In 2020, the QAD Adaptive ERP was released, and O3 is the way forward for QAD. Manufacturing processes in QAD have undergone a series of functions with the various versions of QAD, starting off with work orders in the original version. Then we saw lean processes with the Kanban sizing workbench and the supplier portal. We saw efficient planning with the master scheduling and production scheduling workbenches, along with component availability check. Then we saw quality with CBOS, then serialization and packaging, then agile manufacturing, attributes, and now finally with 2016 and forward, we see the new production orders. So let's talk a little bit about this latest manifestation of manufacturing in QAD, the production order. As mentioned, production orders were introduced in QAD 2016, EE, and it basically was to support mixed mode manufacturing, remove the redundancy and gaps in the production modes, simplify the setup and settings, and improve capabilities for order authorization, allocation, picking, production management, etc. Production orders are tightly integrated with all other manufacturing modules. BOMs and product structures are still created in the product structure module. Routings and work centers are still used, and production orders create planned orders to fill demand in MRP, just like with the old work order process. Production orders pretty much affect everything you do in manufacturing and operations organization, and at least some features of production orders are going to be affected by whether you use regulatory affairs, WIP lot trace, serialization, item attribute, trade, Dynasis. You should look at all these functions before starting production orders, as you may want to change some of your process configurations. Lots of benefits for production orders: simplifies production process, enhanced material supply, better flexibility, better integration with planning and scheduling workbenches, and easier management of variations. Enhanced material supply sees a new consignment inventory functionality, vendor managed inventory, DRP, supplier performance monitoring, inter-site requests, and adaptability to those different production modes. So you can have mixed mode in discrete and repetitive, and flow, enhanced control over material issuance, timing, real-time data exchange, lots of benefits. Improved timing gives us comprehensive operational data capture so we can have data-driven decision-making, component availability checks, and CRP and resource planning. Improvements with production order give us new ways to create pick lists, new pick quantities, new ways to handle pick quantities to production orders. We can move quantities into stock, out of production, transfer product quantities from shop, and backflush easier for shop floor. Better user experience. The MSW and PSW are probably the most improved functionality of the QAD user experience in planning and scheduling since the old work order process. This includes .NET interface, a single schedule for each type, custom interfaces, visual integrations, integrated functionality, drag and drop. You really need to use and learn how to use master scheduling and production scheduling workbenches. As I said, general availability is 2016 and up, both cloud and on-premise. In case you're lower than EE 2018, you may need serialization attributes and quality. And then, like I said, after 2022 and into 03, production orders will be the only customer service covered option for manufacturing. The concept of work orders emerged in the Industrial Revolution as factories began to replace skilled craftspeople with machine-based manufacturing. Such changes as automated assembly lines, management science, influences of Japanese techniques, modern digital transformation, computerized material. Today, work orders are an essential tool for efficient manufacturing, providing detailed instructions, ability to track and analyze performance. As I've always said, I think it's important to look at who and how individuals configured or contributed to the development of a process. We have several individuals: Henry Ford, Frederick Taylor, John Welsh, Michael Dell, Andrew Carnegie. All of these would be well put to research when learning about production orders. The Global Manufacturing Purchasing Management Index serves as a reliable advanced indicator of actual worldwide output trends, several months ahead of comparable data. Monitoring global activity is a good way to keep abreast of international supply chain. There is caution ahead. Be careful. Classic Apex views manufacturing in terms of a placement on a matrix of volume of output versus variety of the number of products. From project to job shop to batch, repetitive to continuous, considering cellular manufacturing and mass customization, you need to understand where your company resides on the volume variety graph, as optimization of product or production orders will be determined by your company processes. QAD has historically approached a volume variety process with a specific functionality for work orders, advanced repetitive, Kanban, scheduling. Now with the new production orders, we have the unified flow, enhanced material management, improved production order setup and visibility, along with improved picking. We now have reserved and backflush location. We talked about next month, tighter integration with serialization and packaging, simplified APIs, so it's easier to deal with MES, QMS, and management warehouse functions. Production order now supports the automated solutions, barcode function from QAD, and gives us real-time information. So this first section, we're going to talk about production orders. We'll look at production line setup. We'll talk about calendars and production order creation and control. Before we jump off, let's recognize that production orders encompass an extensive set of functionalities. So I've gone on some assumptions. I'll assume you all have an idea of work orders. Menu numbers have changed. We won't cover security, but that's an important function. We won't cover repetitive functionality just yet, and we won't cover either how the production orders deal with MRP. Not much has changed there, and we won't cover automated solutions. Lots of new concepts, terms, words to learn and understand. Let's look at some of the issues with production orders: setup, control, items, order types and manufacturing, integration in real time. There's basically the 5 elements of data in QAD, from the database itself to the domain, distinct business operation, to entities, to sites where MRP and costing occurs, down to the location where inventory is stored and used. All things QAD start with control files. You really need to look at each control file and understand each element in every control file that affects how QAD deals with production orders. We'll look specifically at 16.3.24, the production order control file itself. The item master file, same basic setup, 1.4.1, issues for production orders as it was for work orders. The primary changes revolve around the item inventory. Here we see the 1.4.16 or 1.4.6, pretty much the same. We see the location, receipt status, all the things you'd normally expect to see. The most significant changes happen in the item picking frame of 1.4.6. First, we see the allocation policy. There's new ways to deal with allocations, both from a detail and a general point of view. There's the pick policy that's been expanded to include pick and issue, do not pick, and pick and transfer. Along with the pick and transfer is a new transfer allocation policy. You can either drop allocations or you can keep allocations as you transfer product. There's the issue policy, which now includes backflush, direct, or no issue at all. There's the allocate single lot, which is basically the same as it was for work orders. We now have a new picking order function, along with whether it's ascending or descending. We have the key item, and we also now have, similar to the order policies, a pick multiple minimum and maximum. The 1.4.7 or 17 planning, not much has changed there, but note that the issue policy has moved from 1.4.17 to the 1.4.16 as we saw previously. Caution with all of the fields that are going to affect how MRP treats production orders: order policy, order quantity, BOM, routing, make buy code, min max quantities, yield, and percentage. All still remain pertinent and very critical to the way production orders are dealt with. The data elements in the PS master or product structure master are crucial for production order management, MRP, component availability checks, production scheduling. Be cautious and make sure product structure parent component relationships are proper. With formulas, not much has changed with formulas, but you still need to deal with 15.1, 15.5, and 15.9, along with the 1.4.16 batch quantity. We've talked about phantom assemblies, both in 1.4.7 and 13.5 and 15.5. The phantom use-up logic applies to global items whose allocation policy is set to detail. That is, the first allocates and consumes available inventory for the phantom item. And second, it then explodes the remaining quantities or requirements for phantom components. And this applies to production orders, bills, calculated pick lists, transfers, etc. Routings define the sequence of production operations to manufacture an item. There's no significant difference between routing and ERP for work orders compared to production orders. Departments are still set up to define labor capacity and general ledger accounts. Work centers still define the work center, where production areas with one or more people or machines having identical capabilities. Remember that with the new backfunction functionality we'll talk about next month, work centers become critical because that's where you're going to issue parts from. Alternate BOMs and routings have been around for many versions of QAD, and these can afford immense flexibility in the way that production orders are processed. Too few companies, I think, utilize this powerful tool for manufacturing operations. We use 13.15.1 for alternate structures and 14.15.1 for alternate routings. Routable production orders are orders that can be automatically created for routable components. Routables can be allocated, released. You can do issues, receipts, allows for better management of complex manufacturing processes. Make bytecode can be set to routable in either the item master file or item planning. The introduction of production orders in 2016 brought significant changes to how production lines function compared to the traditional work order system. Previously, prior to 2016, production lines were used primarily for organized production activities and allocating resources and tracking progress. With the introduction of production orders in 2016, production lines now offer extended support of mixed mode manufacturing, better control of issue timing, facilitate plan ahead preparations, easier management of variations, backflush locations, both work center and production lines are streamlined, and there is also a better integration with the MSW and PSW workbenches. There are three primary actions that are required for production lines to set up production resources. That is, define the production line, relate each item to a specific production line, that's new, and allocate resources of the item to a production line in allocation maintenance. Production line, first, you've got to figure out how you want your production line organized. We used then 16.1 production line maintenance to record information about the product line, number of lines, standard production rates, run sizes, setup, duration times. Because normally if you're going to schedule based on production lines, typically you'll do that by production line and not by item. The 16.1.4 item production line maintenance allows you to define the parameters of how each item can be manufactured and scheduled on a specific production line. This includes control parameters like BOMs and routings, scheduling parameters for rate, setup, run crew, run sequence, and these parameters can be set up differently for item sites and production lines by start date. The 16.1.6 production line allocation specifies how the 16.4.1 production workbench and the 22.20.1 master scheduling workbench allocate the product across multiple product lines. So if you've got parts that are produced on multiple product lines within a site, you'd use the 16.1.6. 16.1.15, you can use this to a mass update mode, mass process items for work centers, and assign items to production lines massively. 16.1.16, the production line update allows you to mass update and delete items from a production, make production lines a primary line, change, make bytecodes, update BOMs and routers, apply run rates to production lines. You can use 16.1.17 to mass update existing production orders with production line settings in your production line. Calendars, we've covered calendars and the concepts of time in QAD before. Calendars are primary to the operation planning and execution for such functions as scheduling, capacity planning, date calculations, work time definitions, and they define typically a work week. Calendars drive everything. You can have different calendars for shifts, work days. The domain calendar is your primary calendar, although you can set up sites and work centers, and everything is scheduled through rough cut capacity planning, resource requirements, and CRPs are all tied to those calendars. You use 16.1.13.1 production line calendar to define the standard work week for a specific production line. There's also some additional concerns. As we said, control of dates in QAD and ARP system is critical to operational effectiveness. Calendar exception schedules have to be correct. And so you need to use the 16.1.13.3, 11.22.4, or 14.18.4 to control those exceptions to and make calendars accurate to the date. Non-work days have to be correct. So you'd use this 16.13.1. And important, don't use the 16.13.1 for holidays. Use that 36.2.1 holiday maintenance to define those regularly scheduled days. Production orders, transition from work orders to production orders, you should first consider how supplies get to production, because there's lots of new functionality to help with that. Production authorization is segregated from printing to pick list. We've got new pick policies. We're going to cover reserved and backlist locations. We've got new general and detail options for allocations. There's new transactions, pick, move, issue, backflush. Should all be considered and defined and modeled for the new orders. You're going to need to review all processes, write specific work instructions, and training cannot be emphasized enough. It's not an easy undertaking. 16.3.24, we have indicated all things start with control files. With production orders, we look at 16.3.24, a number of fields in the new 16.3.24. First, next order and default of order and routing comments. We've got the detail for move to next operation, include yield. We've got a new quantity complete method, which is applicable to primarily co and byproducts, and a new reason code criticality field that specifies how the system responds with an invalid reason code for entering recording backflush transactions. The default of production order release, you can move it to first operation, probably a good idea to do. And you've got open quantity method determines how the system calculates an open quantity for a production order. This can either be a quantity processed or a quantity completed. There are pick list parameters, do whatever pick list sequence you want. There are control parameters for recording repetitive. There's a reason code criticality. There's zero process, which tells the system how you're going to treat backflush and previous operations and subcontract shipping requirements. There are work order and repetitive parameters. There's this new field threshold status that says this is the earliest status that must apply to a discrete production order before any activity can take place. There's a whole bunch of new orders for repetitive functionality and for consumption of repetitive. So there's lots and lots of fields available for the process. In sites, you've got the site minimum order status requirements, process control parameters, There's lots and lots of combinations that you really have to understand what is happening with that control file. So let's look at the functionality set forth in this new production order process. First, we start with a 16.3.1, new menu number. Used to be 16.1, no longer, 16.3.1. This now provides a single function for both work orders and repetitive schedules. It provides direct access to all the fields for the production order, but not including its routing or components. You can do the same thing in 22.13, master schedule order maintenance. Same functionality as the 16.3.1. Production orders start with the production order and the ID, same as with the old work order and repetitive schedule. And a production order is set for an order that is done at a site. The order policy or the order type and the manufacturing type are pretty much determined by the make-buy code. You're going to do it on a production line. There is an order status, which tells you where in the order process this particular production order is. You've got routing and BOM codes that you can either use standard or modify. And there are a number of dates, including release, due, order, need date. And now we see even new functionality in terms of quantity to start and expected quantity to complete. The 16.3.4 production order bill maintenance lists the components required for a production order. You can use standard or you can change it manually. Same with the 16.3.6 production order routing. Got to think about the routing maintenance, milestones, labor reporting, flexibility, alternates, all those things that relate to actual production. There are some rules for production. If you set the first operation as a milestone, that's going to affect how the system is going to use the 16.5.12 production order component which used to be 16.10. Setting last operation on a router and milestone, if you use the automated solutions, that's going to affect how 16.13.13 operation activity is properly processed. And the 16 or 13.5 product structure maintenance, you can define where you want a particular part consumed based on its router operation. The use of attribute functionality, highly recommended. Lots of benefits with production attributes. You can create profiles, integrate it with browsers. You can make it compatible with the QAD reporting framework. It supports various types of data, and you can also print these attributes on production orders, purchase orders, and sales orders. The accounting data in the production order is the structured approach to managing various aspects of the production order, including production-related costs and variance. And we'll talk more about this on the last series of our webinars on production orders. But this enables accurate costing, variance analysis, financial reporting, supporting better decision-making and cost control in manufacturing process. The default values assigned to order type and manufacturing type, as I said, are determined by the purchase manufacturer code. Order type is highly coupled with the manufacturing type. Manufacturing types are work order or repetitive. Order types are blank, scheduled, community, expense, rework, or final assembly. You must specify the type F if multiple work order prints are going to be released to work orders. The purchase manufacturer of L for line defaults the order type to S and the manufacturing type to R. If the purchase manufacturing is not L, then the default for order type is blank and the manufacturing order is WO. When work order type and production orders are split, then both orders become S's. The production order status places the production order in a process of firm to exploded to allocate your release, like we saw from work orders. And this is tightly integrated with this new production activity threshold parameter in 16.3.24 that allows the earliest status that must apply to a discrete production order before any can be processed. Allocating, we use 16.5.1 production order allocations to calculate pick lists, support both detailed and general allocations. This handles the allocations of components for work orders. It applies the phantom use-up logic and considers product line calendars, site calendars, and domain calendars. It also integrates with routable production orders. So we still need some functionality between work orders if you want to have personalized custom work orders, batch history, and order-based as opposed to repetitive. We still have the functionality of 16.3.8, repetitive cumulative order create, where we can use this function that prevents the system from creating orders during repetitive transactions. The 16.3.9 competitive or repetitive cumulative order maintenance allows you to create new or maintenance repetitive orders based on start and end dates for existing orders. We talked about production order splitting. You can split the work orders. Benefits of splitting work orders include improving flexibility, better scheduling, better resource, more timely completions. And you use 16.3.12 split cumulative order maintenance to maintenance those. You can't manually split a cumulative order. You have to use the 16.3.12. Just a word about a function I've found most useful. That is 16.3.13 production order comment viewer. You can add types of comments to any page. Comments can be categorized by type. This tool makes it easier to access and view comments and provides a great centralized location for storing and managing all production order comments. Let's review production order quantities just quickly. Order quantity, open quantity, quantity complete, quantity scrapped. Quantity order is the quantity that is to be produced. It is expressed in unit of measure. Order quantity is the number of units that MRP uses to plan. If there's an expected yield of less than 100%, this quantity may be greater than the usable quantity, so MRP gives you a scrap requirement, increasing the requirements for that projected quantity on hand. Quantity complete, you can use a quantity complete along with the system yield to calculate a quantity to start. When both quantities are entered, the system calculates and updates the estimated. You really need to test this. This is one of the tricky parts of the new production order quantity. Quantity to start, as I said, is the quantity you want, and it will calculate based on the estimated use what you need to complete. There's an actual quantity scrapped and actual quantity completed. These are two new fields. The quantity scrapped is calculated as the quantity start minus quantity completed, or could be quantity processed. And then the actual quantity completed, there's several ways to arrive at that. You can manually input it. You can use 16.13.13, or you can use the transaction quantity method and the work center maintenance or production line maintenance to calculate that. The dates of orders, order date, release date, due date, need date, and creation date. So we see some new information there. These dates control the timing of material supplies and management, determine issue materials timing, facilitate ahead of time preparations, drive MRP and master scheduling, and help ensure on-time delivery. Dates can be anchored or fixed. Order date is the date that the order was entered. It defaults to today's date. Production orders can be selected for a range of dates. The release date is the date that you expected to go into or release to production. Default is 2 days, but it changes when the status of R or you print a production order, that date changes. The due date is, as with the MRP, this is the most critical date. This is what MRP uses to calculate the MRP netting process. So this is critical to material requirements planning. The need date, this is a new date. Need date entered the date the quantity is required to fulfill higher level demand. Now, what does that mean? This is a reference field. You can use it for whatever you need. Very, very flexible functionality with the need date. So what have we covered today? Well, we've talked about what a production order is, some of the foundations. We've talked about contributors. We've covered product lines, product line allocation, item, product line maintenance, calendars, production setup. We talked about the production order control, preparations, lots of information to learn. Remember, QAD was named one of the top 10 most powerful ERP systems out there. So learn how to use it. Just to review some of the best practices and concepts for production orders, you must do regular maintenance. There's lots of changes with these production orders. Don't just set it and forget it. This is where 32Soft data loaders come in handy. User training. You need smart users who understand the functionality and are willing to exercise the tool. So critical. There's lots of tools and functions, and those guys who are out there using production orders on a daily basis need to understand how they work. Make sure that the processes are standardized. Everybody needs to do it the same way. Helps with cycle counting, variance analysis, etc. And continuous improvement. You will not get it right the first time. I remember when we implemented production orders down in Carlsbad, it was a constant process of experimenting and developing and enhancing a perpetual refinement process. So production orders are great tools, but you really need to understand how they're used. Since this is a relatively new area of production, there's a large amount of information you need to learn and consider. There's online resources, there's certifications that are available online. There are a number of books that are available, ERP systems for manufacturing, supply chains. These are all good resources for you to use. The West Coast User Group and Midwest User Group, along with the Southeast User Group, they have excellent discussion and resource boards. The forums, you gain a lot of operational knowledge from the QAD forums. The knowledge base is my go-to after F1, but you really need to explore AI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. All of these can give you great information about QAD and production order functionality. There's the QAD document library, everything you ever want to know about QAD. You look hard enough, you can research that. QAD's recently upgraded their learning center. This is a great place to learn about current and new QAD functionalities, such as the new production orders. It'll take some time and effort to gather and track all the data pieces in QAD and do that. The better you model and build data in your system, the faster you get data out of your ERP system. Not only will you know, do you need to know a lot of basic rules and methods, but you also are going to have to put a lot of data in. Because of this, people sometimes use spreadsheets to use data for QAD. Don't do that. Don't use spreadsheets to store data. Keep the data in QAD. With 32Soft's myriad of data loaders, you can download real-time, massively update, revise data, validate, flag errors, and increase your productivity. As we've seen, production orders are central to everything you do in your factory. 32 soft loaders can bring logic, accuracy, and consistency to that process. Olena, Christian, Alex, Nancy have been working on the new production order functionality, and we've developed a series of loaders that directly affect the production orders, such as 16.1 workbench, 16.3.1 production order create, modify, and browse. There's 16.3.4 production order bill. Olena has incorporated in the new production planner plus the basic 16.13.1 or 16.3.1 functionality, and in development are the new 16.3.9 and the 16.13.1 production order receipt. As I mentioned, here's a list of URLs, complete with clickable links for all the slides and documents that we used. Just go to the Word at 32 website, click on the URL, and it will take you to those various sources of information. If you're interested in learning more about production orders, I've found these helpful: the production order maintenance essentials, production order release notes, and the production execution guide, helpful. There's also additional good reads around the production order training guides, production order user guides, and always read the help. Lots to learn. Always a good idea to learn how to use the social media. Here's a list of hashtags that you can use for production order subjects in QAD. So we hope you've enjoyed this quick look at some of the production order elements and how this process can help you in the future. The application of production order concepts and tools can help you on your way to tomorrow's manufacturing, i.e. O3. Please contact Denise, Nancy, Olena, Alex, or myself if you've got any questions regarding production orders. We look forward to our next webinar in February to look at production orders as they relate to day-to-day operations with locations, allocation, pick lists, issues, receipts, and labor allocations. Thank you so much. And Denise, back to you.